Chapter 7. Mudbloods and Murmurs. Chapter text. Harry just shrugged and said, "How should I know? I don't even know how much time skips any more than you guys." James hesitated for a moment before swapping the baby that was still in his arms with the book so that Lily was now holding her little son. James began the next chapter in a rather foul mood. He was still ticked Lockhart had lied about the books he'd made up, and Harry was going to go another full year without a proper teacher. Dada was an important class, and Harry was having worse luck than they did about awful teachers. Still, he was determined to shake it off and enjoy the rest of Harry's year. "Good," all four of them said gleefully, Sirius adding on, "Great time for you to practice the uses of the hidden corridors." "Why's he following you around?" Lily asked in surprise. Harry was grimacing in annoyance again, admitting, "He liked to try and talk to me." It was bloody irritating too, because he just kept trying to ask me questions about stuff like if I was going to go on and be a dark wizard catcher when I had no idea what that was. I hated being hero worshipped. Lily felt bad for both the kids, seeing both sides of the coins there. James looked dearly like he wanted to say something, but he thought Lily would get mad at him again, so he held it in. "Points for originality," Sirius chuckled. "We never did that." "Early Quidditch practice," James agreed sagely, not unsurprising. "Okay," James grimaced. "I've never had to get up that early." "Vosper got us up before dawn once," Sirius reminded him. "It was before his last game there, and he was desperate to make sure we won that one." James nodded in remembrance. Their old Quidditch captain had been a real fanatic, like Wood, apparently. "You sound way too enthusiastic about this," Lily said lightly, feeling like laughing at these boys. They wouldn't stay up past midnight to study for exams, but would get up as early as they had to for a game. "Wow," Remus said in surprise. "He's dedicated. I never went down with those two. I enjoyed sleeping too much." Harry just shrugged. He still found Colin more aggravating than anything. All four gave appreciative chuckles at that. Glad photo Harry was putting up as much of a fight as the real Harry. "I thought you said you would have, if you were alone." Lily asked, starting to feel bad for the little first year. He was just trying to talk to Harry after all. "That was before Lockhart made such a fuss about it," Harry said, just as flatly to his mum as he had been to Colin. "Wow, you were really desperate to get rid of him," James said, mouth twitching with humor. Harry rolled his eyes at all of them. They clearly found this funnier than he had. "Bet your camera he was," Sirius agreed proudly. Then Harry went wide-eyed as he popped himself in the head and said, "Oh, Colin told me, and I remember now. Went on about buying that camera in Diagon Alley before he came to school. That's how he got it." "Well, that explains it," James grinned, happy that random little thing had been answered, and also understanding there was no way Harry could remember that until after all of the conversations with Colin came back to him. "No, to the last one anyways," Harry said, looking grumpier the more James read. "A new model came out over the summer." "What?" he demanded as the others just kept smiling at him. "Sorry," Remus said, trying very hard not to laugh. "We just think it's cute is all. This kid is clearly hero worshipping you. The fact that you're taking it like this, the opposite of how your father would have, is funny as all get out to us." James really did laugh then, unable to deny that one bit, while Harry was beginning to wonder about his dad's younger personality. "Best one there is," James said with pride. "That's it," Sirius chuckled. "Why, you were really trying to get rid of him, weren't you?" "I don't want to be worshipped then or now," Harry snapped at him, a bit more edge in his voice than he meant. Sirius didn't look mad, though. On the contrary, they all suddenly felt a little bad as they finally realized what Harry was so annoyed about. It was the same feelings they had whenever an adult tried to praise Harry for being famous. It wasn't the fame, it was what he was famous for. It must have bothered Harry greatly that this student wasn't catching on to that part, so Sirius was the one to apologize and promised not to pick on Harry about it anymore. Harry looked surprised, but thanked him all the same. "Ah," James chuckled, "not a good idea at all." "Why?" Lily asked. "'Cause they're all still asleep," Sirius laughed. "He should have had them do some warm-ups, then sat them down and talked about real tactics." Harry verbally agreed, saying Wood had gone on far too long with this. "He's not even taking the hint," Remus laughed. "How does he not notice his team's falling back to sleep and not paying attention?" "He's got a point," Lily agreed. Now seemed like the worst opportunity. "We don't blame you one bit," James said at once, as Harry did indeed still look guilty over that. Saving the stone was far more important than some game. Lily pursed her lips, agreeing with James, though still thinking Harry should have never gone after the bloody thing to begin with. It was far over and done with now, though, and Harry didn't look guilty anymore, so she let it go. Not exactly the cheerful speech to get them moving either, Sirius chuckled. Can you recall any of them? James asked. Nope, Harry said brightly. Looking back, the whole scene was almost funny. Something I've never thought of, Remus agreed. Are cameras even allowed on the field? I suppose so, James said with a shrug. I've never heard of anyone bringing one, though, so I'm not sure. He doesn't recognize he's a Gryffindor, Remus asked in surprise. Did you know every single student in the castle? Lily asked in disbelief. Remus shrugged, admitting that. This can't be good, James said in trepidation. He had been hoping for a nice normal Quidditch practice. Clearly things were about to turn ugly. Harry verbally agreed. They really can't be there then, Sirius said, getting angry now. Two teams aren't allowed on the pitch at the same time. It causes too many problems. Wood says he booked it, so they really can't be there. That's clearly not stopping them, Remus huffed. There's hardly enough room for your ugly mug, James snapped, let alone two teams. He should go and get Madam Hooch then, Sirius said. She must be close by. She usually is when there's a practice. Well, she wasn't this time, Harry said, feeling a sense of forbidding again. He had yet another bad feeling that something was going to happen, something about Ron and slugs again. He can't do that, James said at once. If the teachers could fill up the pitch for the students, there would be too much of a chance for overbooking. This cannot be legit, Sirius said in disgust. Teams get new members all the time, Remus snapped, agreeing with his friends about the injustice of this. That doesn't give them a right to more training. Please tell me you took this to Madam Hooch instead of fighting it out, Lily said at the look on Harry's face, and the way he looked like he was about to start reaching for his wand based on his emotions at the time. I can say this, Harry said, digging to try and remember at least slightly what happened next. We don't practice that day. The three boys looked more than annoyed at this deceleration, and James read in a real temper now. Harry rolled his eyes in disgust. Why wasn't he surprised? None of the others looked very shocked either. The little git had to try and beat Harry some other way, since he clearly couldn't do it inside school. He bribed his way onto the team, you mean? Sirius spat. Probably couldn't get on any other way, James said vindictively. Gits, all four boys muttered. Lily couldn't help but agree with them, but chose to stay out of this for now. So, Sirius snapped at once, there are pros and cons to every broom model. You could have the fastest broom in the world, and you'd still be an awful player. James suddenly began laughing, saying, Well, you just said it, dear Padfoot. He grinned wickedly at his friends. Malfoy is probably rubbish as a player, but he bought his way onto the team. I doubt Harry will ever lose a single match to those twats. Harry smiled at his dad, loving the confidence he seemed to have in him. He's not even subtle about it, Remus said in disgust. Oh, please, Lily huffed. That wasn't even funny. Malfoy still hasn't gotten any new jokes, it seemed, James said, wrinkling his nose in disdain. Go Hermione, all five of them praised, glad someone said it. James cut himself off with the look of deepest shame and disgust at what he had been fixing to say. Sirius and Remus roared in outrage, causing the baby in Lily's arms to begin fussing all over again. Lily noticed and quickly excused herself from the room, trying very hard not to remember the last time someone had called her that. Harry looked around at them. Clearly Hermione had just been insulted, and James hadn't even finished the insult, but Harry instinctively knew what the rest of that word was. Feeling very upset himself, he asked, What's a mudblood? James' jaw was tensing so much he looked like the Lockjaw curse had been set on him. It's a foul name for a muggle born, about the worst thing you can call us, Lily said from behind Harry. He turned around and saw his mum, now childless, leaning against the staircase, holding herself instead. She must have gone upstairs to put the baby away. The anger Harry felt reared up again in tenfold. Now he knew for certain something awful happened, and it was because Malfoy had called his friend that. Lily came back in and sat down in her spot. Sighing, she said quietly, Just keep going, James. We can't do anything for it now. I'm not saying it, James snapped at once, finally breaking his jaw back open. I refuse to call anyone that. Lily sighed in annoyance, then said, Well, since we know what he meant, just skip the word and keep going. James did not look happy, but did as asked, skipping over that foul word but reading the rest of the sentence. Sirius and Remus grinned viciously. Malfoy deserved whatever curse Ron pegged him with. James sounded very pleased indeed as he read. "Wait, what?" he yelped. "Oh dear, what curse did Ron try to use?" Lily asked fearfully. James read quickly. "I really want to laugh right now," Sirius said pityingly, "because I wanted that to happen to Malfoy. Poor Ron. Worst part is he clearly did that spell properly, and the wand backfired on him," Remus said, wincing in sympathy. "No, the worst part is there's no counter-curse to that," James said, feeling really bad for Ron. He had stood up for his friend and gotten hit for it by his own wand. Now he's going to be stuck like that for at least the next 12 hours. Harry sighed, feeling really bad for Ron. Lily was the only one smiling, though. She felt warmed that Ron had done something like this, the opposite of what her supposed friend had done all those years ago. Not even his brothers, James huffed. "Well, like you said," Sirius said sadly, "not much they can do for the poor kid. They could still get those bloody Slytherins back while they're distracted," Remus pointed out. "Remus!" Lily yelped. Sirius, however, clapped Remus on the shoulder, grinning with pride as he said, "And that's why we kept you around, Moony, always keeping us on point." Harry and James were both laughing very loudly now, while Lily just rolled her eyes in annoyance at all four of them. "Better than anything else they could do," James agreed, still fighting back bursts of laughter. He wasn't so angry anymore. Ron had tried to do the right thing after all. "Why would he think that?" Harry asked. "Do I look like I know how to fix him?" Lily smiled sadly at her son. The younger boy was clearly putting Harry on some kind of pedestal, probably viewing Harry the same way Hermione obviously viewed Lockhart. "Bloody hell, this guy's like a doxy infestation. They just keep cropping up." Sirius said in disgust. "Well, I've had plenty of practice hiding from him by now," Harry reminded him, making them all feel better at once. "For such a smart kid, she seems remarkably blind this year," Remus noted. "She's just starstruck," Lily said. "Hopefully it will wear off." "Whatever he was saying, I doubt it was actually useful," Remus huffed. "Guess he's seen worse," James agreed. Sirius and Remus really did laugh then, James agreeing, "True enough." "Shows a lot of his potential, though," Lily said fondly. "He'd probably be doing far better in all of his classes once he got his own wand. That is Charlie's broken wand, if you recall." "We remember," James agreed. "Oh, please," Remus scoffed. "I am convinced that idiot is all books, no talent, the worst kind of Ravenclaw." "That's still being overly kind," James scoffed, "since he clearly doesn't even know how to handle what he does read and write about." "Wonder if he annoys everyone around school like that?" Lily asked. "I think he does," Harry said. "At least none of the teachers seemed happy with him all year." "Can't imagine why," Sirius faked shock. "So we were right," James sighed. "Kind of almost wish we weren't." "Can't even imagine what kind of idiot you're going to get next year," Remus sighed. "Starting to," Sirius laughed. "The post has been cursed for how many years now?" 22 by this year, Remus added on, "so 34 by that time." "And not one single person had lasted more than a year in 34 years, James finished. "Yeah, it's a real mystery why people aren't willing to try anymore." James broke off again, looking disgusted, but Lily said gently, "James, dear, if Ron can say it about his best friend, just spit it out. We all know you don't mean it." "Doesn't make me feel any better about saying it," he huffed, but took a breath and winced as he finished. "Guess she couldn't have come across that in a book," Remus agreed. "I am rather curious why Ron knows this," Sirius said. "Surely he's never come across it, since his family would never say something like that, plus being a pureblood, nobody would have called him that." "I asked that night," Harry said, having wondered this same thing. "He was in Diagon Alley with his dad and his co-worker Perkins. Well, they got stopped inside the leaky cauldron by this guy. Mr. Weasley later told Ron his name was Yaxley. Yaxley called Mr. Perkins a mudblood, and Tom the barkeep kicked Yaxley out. Mr. Weasley told Ron what had happened afterwards, since he didn't understand at the time, obviously. Ron was only 8 or something." "That's awful," Lily huffed. "For someone to go around like that in public. Did Yaxley even know who this Mr. Perkins was?" "You can't tell if someone's muggle-born just by looking at them." "Ron didn't know, he's never asked," Harry said. "I'm not too surprised," Remus said sadly. "I've seen a lot of pretty similar instances." "Now you guys are really depressing me," Sirius said. Forcing himself into brighter tones, he said, "Can we move on now?" James was more than happy to comply. "Couldn't have put it better myself," James said with pride. "Poor kid," Sirius said again. I'll take that trade any day, James huffed. I'll back Ron up in an instant. Malfoy deserved it. I'm sure Ron's parents would have as well, Lily agreed. He was standing up for a friend. Yeah, you've got a point there, Sirius grimaced. James couldn't help but chuckle a bit then, Remus saying, I see Hagrid's cooking hasn't gotten any better. And it never will, Harry said brightly. He missed Hagrid a lot. Four of them couldn't help but crack a grin at that. Hagrid was clearly messing with Harry, though the boy looked far from amused. Thank you, Hagrid, Sirius said with a straight face. Now I know the perfect way to get rid of him. I found a plus side to vomiting slugs, Lily said lightly, a polite way to say no to someone's cooking. I'll keep that in mind, James said seriously. Wow, Remus said in surprise. Wish he did that more often. That must be quite the sight. Bigger than boulders. Sirius laughed. How big is he trying to get them? They couldn't help but smile indulgently at Hagrid. No wizard could blame him for his actions there. Only a strong impression, James asked. I thought you had a better gut feeling than that. I do, Harry assured, but since I've never been able to prove it, I just put it like that. Fair enough, Sirius chuckled. I see Ginny still as awestruck as Colin, Remus said lightly, trying to avoid making it a joke at Harry's expense again. Ouch, all five of them muttered. That had to be worse than puking them up. That's the nice stage of the spell, James said sadly. The poor kid's going to have a comeback later that night. One of the reasons that spell's so tricky, it has a delayed effect. Damn, Sirius drew the word out. Can we have a real discussion about McGonagall's awful timing of late? James did agree, but ignored the stupid question anyways. At least it's a normal punishment this time, Remus said weakly. Hope Ron's comeback doesn't happen then, Sirius said. Say what? Lily yelped. I thought they banned torture, Sirius spluttered. Wow, that's a new low even for her, James said in disgust. I think I'd rather take the fine, Remus said, getting annoyed already at having to spend any length of time with that jerk. Guess that is a first for her, Sirius agreed. Students don't usually ask for other detentions. I don't blame Harry one bit for this, though, James huffed. Great, just great, a night of my life, Harry said in disgust. She has an expression for that, Remus asked, trying to change the subject for Harry's sake. Yeah, we saw it a lot during the first half of last year, Harry said, a little distracted. Oh, Harry got the worst deal by far, James said at once. The way you say it like that, Lily huffed, never appreciating those random comments by her son. That's not normal. Harry shrugged. It was true. Here I thought his head couldn't get any bigger, Remus snorted in disgust. Better than me, Sirius groaned at the mere thought of that. I would have just ignored him. If Harry remembers anything about you, it will be the hundreds of people you hoodwinked into thinking you're a decent person, Lily snapped. I note McGonagall didn't say what time he could leave, James said miserably, wishing now he could have given Harry yet another of his old things. That two-way mirror would have come in handy by then. That's for the punishing teacher to decide, Remus reminded him, though James of all students should have known that himself from all of his detentions. So it's up to Lockhart. James, now's not the time for those kinds of jokes, Lily said, looking a little queasy as to why her husband would have said something like that. I wasn't joking, he whispered, looking suddenly very upset. That had been very close to the way Harry had described Voldemort's voice last year. It couldn't be possible Voldemort was hanging around Lockhart too, was it? James didn't give his friends a chance to put their 2 cents in. He read the words quickly. Harry shuddered in disgust. His dad wasn't doing a very good job of capturing just how creepy that voice had been. Damn James, Sirius muttered, rubbing where his heart was. I was putting money on a student trying to scare someone with a creepy voice, but I can't see many students saying that. You don't think, Remus began hesitantly. Perhaps Vol don't. Lily snapped, her eyes suddenly shining brightly. Just don't. I can't stand it if Voldemort's come back again this year. Let's say Sirius is right for now and skip past this to Lockhart wetting his pants. Harry was rubbing his temple again. There was something about what his mum had just said that didn't feel right, but James only seemed reassured enough to read on. There was a very nasty pause at Lockhart's words. Surely the guy would have freaked out as much as Harry had. James kept going in a very uneasy tone of voice. He didn't, Sirius broke off. Looking worriedly at Harry, he tried again. Lockhart wouldn't have been faking it. I don't see how, Harry huffed, now rubbing his temple in real pain. It was loud enough to me, but he didn't react at all. All four of them exchanged very uneasy looks now. Why had Harry suddenly heard a voice someone else hadn't? James' mind floundered as he tried desperately to think of something. Harry was looking around at all of them, clearly very concerned at their reactions. It was Remus who took a brave stab and said, "I'm sure you are. Heard something like a ghost just being a jerk." Lockhart couldn't hear it over his own prattling. None of them looked convinced at all. They had lived at that castle for 7 years and never heard of anything like a ghost doing that. But James still read on. They were all still too freaked out to make an annoyed comment at Lockhart's not noticing it was midnight. Sirius finally took a brave stab at attempting normal conversation again. "Guess you should be lucky you got the detention you did. Filch has kept me there since 2 sometimes. He liked making me stay late." "Maybe that's because you insulted him while you worked," Remus said distractedly, still straining his mind for a reasonable explanation to Harry's problem. "Why was the Quidditch cup in the trophy room?" Lily asked distractedly. "I thought, since Slytherin won last year, Snape would have it." "Snape lent it to Filch that night, just for Ron's detention," Harry said bitterly, having asked that very thing the next morning. "Poor kid," Sirius said for the final time, hoping that was the last of that curse. "That's the end of the chapter," James sighed, passing the book along to Sirius. "I'm not sure what to call this, a nonverbal spell, his wand being screwy. Ron just did some very powerful magic, though, and it's really glossed over how advanced something about that is." Chapter 8. The Death Day Party. Chapter text: "Is it so impossible for you to have a year without something creepy happening to you?" Lily huffed before Sirius could start. "Apparently," Harry grumbled. Sirius started the chapter with some unease. He really didn't want that voice to start becoming a regular thing around the castle. "Sibling love, I suppose," James chuckled. "Is that why you guys forced me to take some?" Remus huffed. "Even though I don't get colds." "Had to keep up your sick appearance somehow," Sirius said brightly. They all gave weak chuckles at that description, hoping to put those dark words out of their mind for now. "How do you even get muddy?" Lily demanded. "You play up in the air." She was far more concerned with her son getting sick from spending so much time in the cold and wet than the actual act of being covered in muck. There was a quick argument where both James and Sirius tried to answer her at once, and while they were doing that, Harry told her, "It's mostly from walking around in it before and after we land. I didn't bring a change of clothes and shower like most of the others do." While both his father and godfather pouted at him for not being able to talk about their favorite sport, Sirius huffed and grumbled a bit more before simply reading. Harry suddenly looked rather crestfallen, hating that his team's spirits were being sunk so low because of stupid Malfoy again. "I stand by what I said," Sirius said. "They can be as fast as they like, doesn't make them good." Harry looked a little better for that. "Guess he would still be on about that," Remus said, laughing for real this time. "What's that?" Harry asked. "Every year Nick tries to join the headless hunt," James told him, "but obviously he can't get in since he's not actually headless." "He's been trying to for centuries," Sirius agreed. "You'd think he'd take the hint." "How do you make transparent letters?" Harry asked in surprise. "That's really complicated magic that only ghosts know how to work," Lily said sadly. "No one's ever been able to get them to tell either. They say it's a secret that stays with death." "It's how Binns works his notes in class," James agreed. "Same kind of principle. We've talked to every ghost in that school countless times, but no one's ever told us." "Buggers," Sirius huffed. "The bloody Baron once snapped at me that he hoped I didn't turn into a ghost, just so I'd leave him be." "Well, you bothered him the most out of every ghost," Remus chuckled. "Oh, so now you're on his side?" Sirius asked, not finding this as fun as he would have before they started reading these books. They had all joked about their deaths before now, inevitable in the era of fear they lived in, but it just didn't seem as funny now that 4 out of the 5 people in the room knew they were going to die in the next year of their time. This fact became clear to James when it seemed Remus didn't want to continue, so James saved him by asking Sirius to keep reading. "Sadly not," Lily sighed, "because whoever did it didn't actually behead him." "Poor guy," James said sadly. "We once told him he should start his own nearly headless hunt. I thought he took to the idea, but apparently it didn't work." "I can't imagine there are that many ghosts that are nearly headless," Remus said sadly. "Nick's kind of singular in that aspect." "Well, that was sweet," Lily smiled. "Oh yeah, that's how we got all of the ghosts in the castle on our side," Sirius agreed. Just listen to them for a few minutes. They're so grateful, most of them will do you a favor whenever you ask. That explains so many times you lot must have been the cause of something, but no one could prove it. Plus how you knew so many of the students' secrets. Lily smiled. Yes, well, now that Sirius has just ruined one of our best secrets, James said, pretending to be mad. Sirius grinned at him, playing along as he huffily read on. Why would she be hanging around Harry? Remus asked in confusion. He's not actually doing anything wrong. I've got a bad feeling about this, Sirius muttered. The cat never showed up for a good reason. He didn't use the pepper-up potion like everyone else. Harry asked in surprise. Most potions don't work on non-magical folks, Lily said sadly. Is that how you knew he was a squib? James asked her curiously. Sure, Lily said with a shrug. Why else wouldn't he use magic to do his job like the rest of us? What's a squib? Harry asked. The opposite of a muggle-born, Sirius said. A non-magical person born to wizard kind. Oh, Harry said, nodding in content. The others just felt happy Harry had interrupted them to ask this, since this wasn't the first time they had mentioned that word, but Harry hadn't asked before. He must be feeling more comfortable around them. Good point, Remus amended his earlier statement. Harry, you should run for it. Harry winced, guessing pretty well he didn't get away with it. Turd knocker, James huffed. Harry can't get into trouble for that, though, Lily defended. There's no actual rule saying he can't track mud through the school. Not going to stop him from yelling at my pup, though, Sirius huffed in annoyance, deciding to just get this over with. Wow, James laughed. He's causing his own problems now. What's he doing anyways? Remus asked. Like Lily said, he can't actually punish Harry for that. Harry just shrugged. The three troublemakers looked like they wanted to be heartbroken. Harry was in his second year now and didn't know half the good things that school had to offer, like Filch's filched cabinet. So dubbed because of all the things the caretaker had confiscated from other students and the marauders had put to use. Lily was the only one who looked happy to hear this. After a short pause, Sirius kept going. By the end of our 7 years, we had our own cabinet to ourselves, James said proudly. And that's just the things they caught us doing, Sirius said, giving Harry a wink. Did he switch it then? Remus asked in a conversational tone of voice. I thought he wanted to string us up by our thumbs. He must change it around for fun, I'm sure, Harry chuckled. Or he does remember us, Sirius said, pressing a hand over his heart. Or Peter anyways, James snickered, since that one was his idea. Then all three friends frowned again, having avoided thinking about their friend acting oddly. But now thinking about it all over again, Lily piped up to distract them. I want to know about the great sizzling dragon bogies. How do you even get a hold of those? The twins would know, I'm sure, Sirius said, shaking himself firmly so that he could read on. They're still not actually a crime, Remus huffed again. The three boys let out great snorts of amusement at that, James saying, that's one of the vaguest rules there is. I always took that to mean we weren't supposed to go leaving our personal stuff lying around. Which no one does anyways, Sirius said thoughtfully, then added, or even no cursing in the corridors, which no one enforces very much. He's probably going to have you do his job for him again, Sirius grumbled. That's his favorite punishment. Timing, Remus said with a victorious grin. Finally, it worked out in Harry's favor, James agreed. Or the twins, Sirius offered. We know they're troublemakers, but we actually haven't got to see them do too much. The twins are what, in their 4th year now? James asked. Unless they were trying to get caught on purpose, which I'd like to hear their motive for, they wouldn't be stupid enough to do that right above Filch's office. You lot are reading into this way too much. Lily laughed when it looked like Remus was about to add something else on. Remus looked slightly abashed, but James and Sirius just exchanged mischievous grins, more than happy to put up with trouble abound at the school, rather than creepy voices following Harry. Agreed, Remus nodded. He'll come back, wanting to write up a report on Peeves again, and tell you to leave. He'll have forgotten all about why you're even there. Harry grinned, agreeing with all of them. Whoever it was, he was thanking their timing. Good, James nodded. If you tried to sneak away, he would have found your form later and come after you for sneaking away. Staying there means he'll let you go from sheer annoyance. Harry was laughing, while Lily rolled her eyes at him. He clearly had way too much experience with this. Poor dear, Lily said. Is he still trying those? How did you know about them? James asked in surprise. I saw him trying one once when he was cleaning up a potions mess in the dungeons. He was looking at that sheaf of parchment and waving a wand, but nothing happened. I'd figured out he was a squib already, and I felt awful for him. Wonder where he got the wand, Remus buted in. Lily shrugged. She hadn't stopped to ask him that personal question. No pity here, Sirius shrugged. Maybe if he wasn't such a jerk about it, I would. Lily gave him the stank eye and snapped. How did you lot figure it out? Peter did, Remus said, frowning again at the reminder of his missing friend. He was in detention with Filch, helping him mop up some accident in a charms class one night, and Filch kept going on about how these magical brats couldn't get the simplest things and such, and Peter snapped. Well, why don't you just magic it away, then we can both go to bed. Filch snapped at him to shut it, but after that we kept an eye on Filch and realized he never did magic. I'll admit, we did feel bad for him at first, James said. Why would he get the job he had? It's like a constant reminder. But then the very next day he tossed Sirius in detention for cursing some Slytherin who had got him last week, and yeah, pity gone. Life went on from there. Lily sighed, but she couldn't disagree with at least part of James' logic. Why would Filch get a job where he was constantly being reminded that he had no magical ability? She still felt bad for the poor dear, wishing she could do something for him, but there was nothing to be done by it, at least right now. Would those even work, though? Harry asked. If you don't have any magical abilities, could you learn it like that? Nope, Remus said sadly. Filch is just torturing himself more. The quick spells are for those who are struggling with magic, not incapable of it altogether. Well, at least these wizards are putting it to good use, Sirius chuckled. Showing off is the best way to prove yourself. I can't tell if you're joking, Lily asked, knowing she really didn't want an answer. Sirius didn't give her one. Instead, he kept reading. Harry felt an electric shock rocket up his spine, though the moment it passed he was left confuzzled. So Peeves tried to break something. What was new about that? He tried to break the vanishing cabinet, James said, looking rather upset himself. That thing was awesome, though. You could stuff people in there and they'd disappear for days. I am going to say you're joking, and not let you respond to that, Lily snapped, not wanting to hear an excuse for their use of that. Oops, Remus winced. When Peter nearly figured it out, Filch turned pretty nasty to him. This might not be good. Ah, he'll just yell at Harry like he did Peter, Sirius shrugged. If he did anything worse, then Harry would know for sure and spread it around. Harry wouldn't do that, Lily huffed. I know, Sirius said, but Filch doesn't. Harry smiled. He had been rather insulted for a moment, thinking Sirius actually thought he was that kind of person, but instantly mollified. Good, James nodded. You've gotten marginally better at that. Harry grinned at him, while Lily rolled her eyes again. These boys were far too eager to corrupt her son. Okay, I'm feeling bad for him again, Remus said, wincing at that pathetic lie. Still not, Sirius shrugged. He brings it on himself. The three boys laughed again, never growing tired of Harry's vivid depictions. It's certainly up there, Sirius agreed. We only got away with it once before for something similar, actually. What happened? Harry asked eagerly. Peter got caught spreading rat intestines under all of the tables in the Great Hall, James grinned, by Filch. Well, we saw that, and we decided to distract him, so we started a fight with this kid, Aubrey or something, by using a hex we made up. Filch caught us instead of Peter. So you didn't actually get away with anything? Lily asked with a raised brow. No, Sirius shrugged, but Peter did, which still counts. Did what work? Lily asked, confused at once. Oh, wow, James said with glee. You mean Nick set that up? That's brilliant. Guess we taught him a thing or two, Sirius said with real pride. Agreed, Remus nodded. Nick did a favor for you, and if you at least try to return it, the exchange can be kept up for the rest of the time you're there. Eesh, all five of them shivered, having all experienced that at least once. Lily smiled brightly, giving James a real loving smile as she said, I remember the first time I went to one. We went our last year there, James said to Harry, who was looking between his parents at the obvious exchange, to his 485th Death Day party. It wasn't that big of a turnout, just the school ghosts mostly. Nick invited us in thanks for our help. We'd done with something else for him earlier that week, and I invited Lily as our first date. Your first date was to a Death Day party? Harry asked, unable to decide whether he was supposed to laugh or not. Yeah, I mocked him for that too, Sirius agreed. I kept saying it was a bad omen and such, but look how wrong I was. He finished more than happy at the turn of events. I only said yes because of how much I wanted to go. Lily said, unable to keep the smile off of her face. Not because you asked me, James. If I'd said yes to you every time you'd ask me out. Yes, yes, he said, waving her off. But you finally did. That's my point. Lily chuckled and Harry smiled brightly at them. For the first time he wondered if this was new information to him. Upon hearing this little story, he hadn't felt a settling feeling in him, like he should have known this already. He wondered if he'd ever found out about this before, and knew before he had even formed the question in his mind he hadn't. He felt very happy and content now, and Sirius gave him a small smile before reading. Happy, James explained. Ghosts celebrate their ages backwards from us. The longer they've been dead, the prouder they feel. Why, though? Harry asked. It's not like they could die again, so what's there to be proud of being a ghost that long? They've got to be proud of something, Remus shrugged. Honestly, I think being a ghost would get rather boring very quickly, so they've got to come up with something to keep up with the times. You should go, all four of them said at once, James adding on, you can go to the feast any old year. This is a real treat. Hardly any humans ever get to go to these things. Well, they're not exactly human-friendly, Lily remembered, but it is quite the experience. Harry smiled indulgently at them, deciding against reminding them that his decision had already been made before they even heard about this. He also refrained from asking what his mum had meant by human-friendly. Ah, Sir Patrick himself is going to be there, Remus said. Now I see why Nick is so peeved. He probably sent him a Death Day invitation, along with another request to join the headless hunt. Maybe he thought they'd take pity on him on his death day. I doubt anyone telling Patrick how scary Nick is would change their minds, though, James said, since it's not a matter of fear or respect, it's the matter of his head still attached. Fascinating is a good word for it, Lily agreed. Very interesting things, James snickered. That didn't kill it, did it? Harry asked in concern. Nah, Remus said. Well, if it's a normal salamander, yeah, but I don't think Fred and George seem that cruel. It's most likely a fire salamander, in which case, don't, Sirius cut him off, eyeing Harry bright-eyed. I want to see his face when the twins do it. Remus just grinned and kept quiet. Harry grinned as he now vividly remembered the sight of that, making the three boys crack up laughing as they had done that to about 100 fire salamanders at their last end-of-term banquet that had been a night to remember. Sirius broke off reading for a few minutes to tell Harry this, giving him all sorts of goofy details, and by the time they started reading again, they were happier in that moment than they had been in a while. They spread rumors around like that every year, James snorted. Usually nothing too exciting happens. You're better off at Nick's party. That sounds awful, Harry winced, now remembering it vividly himself. I really don't know why they did that, Lily agreed. They can still hear perfectly fine, so my guess is Nick just has a horrible taste in music. Sirius snorted with amusement. This doesn't seem that different from the one we went to, Remus mused. How did all of that stuff get set up? Harry asked. It didn't seem ghostly. The teachers help out, I think, James said. Honestly, we never thought to ask. Lily grimaced and said, can't blame her there. Who's moaning Myrtle? Harry asked. Some wailing ghost who died in her 4th year, Sirius said. She loves crying around all day, a real bore, honestly. Why? Harry asked. None of the other ghosts seemed so upset. Remus snorted in amusement and said, because she died when she was 14, so the whole world is still melodramatic to her. How did she die? Harry asked, really getting curious now. James answered, apparently she died in the bathroom that she prefers to haunt, a girl's loo on the 1st floor. She said she saw an eye and died. Then he trailed off laughing. We always thought she was exaggerating that, Sirius shrugged, since the amount of things you look in the eye and die from are so rare she couldn't have run into one at Hogwarts. But we never got another answer out of her either. After she told us that, all she'd ever talk about was the girl she came back to haunt, don't remember her name anymore. Harry nodded, feeling content with these answers, but he had that feeling again. He knew Myrtle hadn't been lying, should know what killed the girl, but his mind seemed to be a blank space when he needed it. Try every year. Lily rolled her eyes. Nice to know some things never changed. All 4 boys snickered. At least none of the boys' bathroom had that problem. Not going to be any good food, though, Sirius said in disgust, wrinkling his nose in remembrance. Harry wanted to ask about that, but he figured he was about to get his answer anyways. Sirius looked and sounded like he was reading about kicked puppies. Really, Sirius, it's just food, Lily scoffed. Perfectly good food that went to waste so that some ghost can have the impression of eating it, Sirius disagreed, then read on in the same tragic tone. Why? Harry asked. Can they taste it then? James said, but being rot like that increases its flavors, the bad ones, Sirius huffed. James ignored him, and it's as close as they can get. Peter actually was sick, Remus snickered in remembrance. Sirius and I dragged him out of there before he could vomit on anything else. Sirius chuckled and said, well, the smell of vomit was pretty strong to my nose, so they should have thanked him. That's it, Remus nodded. That's what made Peter puke. He popped a moldy peanut in his mouth. This is really gross, Lily snapped at them, and you boys need to stop it now. Harry was still laughing at the lot of them, so Lily didn't seem too upset. Oh, great, Lily sighed. That poltergeist is the worst. Nah, I've seen worse, James disagreed. He personally had a lot of fond memories of Peeves, mixed with bad, of course. No one stayed on a poltergeist's good side for long. Sirius snorted with mirth. That wasn't a sentence you got to hear a lot. To be fair, Lily sighed. She calls herself that, and we avoid her because of it, so she thinks we call her that. Really, though, no one in the castle cares enough about a ghost to go around calling her that. Lily, James laughed. No one was actually accusing anyone of doing that. It's just Myrtle being, well, moaning Myrtle. Wow, Peeves is even mean to the ghosts, Harry said in surprise. Peeves has no bounds, Sirius said brightly. I might feel bad, Lily said, still looking a little upset. If she didn't do that even when you tried to be nice to her, then she would just accuse you of lying and do the same thing. Not really, Harry muttered. It's something new, though, James said bracingly. Do ghosts just travel by, floating? Harry asked. Did she walk all that way? You know, I'm not sure, Remus said, suddenly puzzled by the question. We only ever met the ones in the castle, but never outside of them. I've no idea how they get about traveling. Harry nodded, only looking marginally disappointed. He couldn't expect his family to know the answer to every one of his odd questions. Cool, Lily said. The headless hunt didn't make an appearance when we were there, so this should be interesting to see. Harry was frowning again, not just at the way he felt about this rather depressing party, but because of something to do with Sir Patrick. Bet he wishes he could take back his invitation now, James said sadly. He probably doesn't want the lot of them at his party, rubbing it in that Nick couldn't join. How does a horse become a ghost? Harry asked. If the horse had a bond with their rider, the rider can choose to take the horse with him. Same with any familiar, Lily shrugged. And he's showing off to boot, Sirius said, rather upset on Nick's behalf. No one in the room did. They were all sharing Nick's feelings of annoyance at yet another pompous person, even if it was a ghost. Lily gave a sniff of disdain. Was that really necessary? Why is that funny? Harry asked. Ghost joke, I guess, Sirius shrugged. Kind of like slapping someone randomly is funny to other people. Why does he act like he's never seen live-uns before? Remus rolled his eyes. We're more common than the ghosts are. We're not arguing that you shouldn't let Nick join, Lily said hotly. We're saying you shouldn't rub it in. The four boys gave Lily an odd look, but decided not to say anything to that. Harry was wincing in shame. He hadn't done a very good job of paying Nick back just then. Maybe he would take Sirius up on that lying lessons offer. I think that's about when we left, Harry said, looking as mad as everyone else in the room. They were being really rude to Nick, but we couldn't really do anything about it. Guess I don't blame you, Lily said sadly. Well, that was awful, Remus said sadly. Poor Nick, Sirius agreed. Sirius suddenly shivered in disgust, but no one needed to ask why, looking like he dreaded every word Sirius finished. Not again, Lily moaned. Why is that happening? Harry said, hoping someone would have thought of an idea by now. Perhaps Hermione might have a good idea, or even Ron, James offered, because I've still got nothing. Harry looked very disappointed now, as did the others. They were genuinely happy and surprised Harry seemed to be relying on them for some kind of answer, which made them all the more upset when they had no idea what Harry was hearing. They, Remus said faintly. They don't hear it either. They were looking at me, not where I was looking, Harry agreed sadly. Must be a phantom then, Sirius muttered. Can't think of anything else that could move up like that, still without being seen, but why can't anybody but Harry hear it? Remus hated not being able to figure it out. Did last year not teach you anything? Lily asked faintly. Why are you chasing the blood-sniffing voice? Because I was the only one hearing it. Harry said, looking very frustrated by now, and I wanted to know I wasn't crazy, so I was looking for whatever it was. You are not crazy, Harry, Sirius said at once, with no doubt in his voice at all. There is a reason for this. We just haven't figured it out yet. He trailed off, looking rather miserable at his confession. Harry nodded, looking a little comforted. All five of them shivered in disgust. Harry had a very bad feeling about what he was fixing to find. If it smells blood, doesn't that mean someone's already hurt? Lily thought to herself, not wanting Harry to hear that. All four adults looked like they dearly wanted to scream at Harry to get away from there. They had more than enough of him charging into danger last year, and most of the time it hadn't been his fault. Now he was actively looking for something that was dangerous. The only thing holding all four of them back was the knowledge that Harry had done this many years ago already. Yelling now would do him no good, and he already looked upset enough at thinking he was hearing voices. Sirius sucked in a deep breath, fearing what he was about to read, but reading all the same. Sirius cocked his head to the side, then released a shaky breath of relief. What was that? Lily asked. The Chamber of Secrets. Is that a joke? You've never heard of it? James asked. No, and what's this to do with a voice Harry's hearing? Lily said, still looking rather upset, though the three boys looked far less so. James explained, well, as for Harry, I'm not really sure. I'm still thinking Remus should be right, and it might be some pureblood around the castle stirring up trouble. I can't figure out how yet. He paused, looking frustrated for a moment before continuing, but as for the chamber itself, there's this old myth around the school that Salazar Slytherin built a secret chamber or something in the school, and if a pureblood found it, they could release a monster that would destroy all who were unworthy. Sirius said, we looked for that thing for all 7 years, never found a stinking trace of it. And why does this make Harry hearing a voice okay? Lily demanded. Well, it doesn't, Remus shrugged. The reasons for that are still weird, but the fact that Harry was led there by that voice, it must mean something. Harry was nodding. He looked less panicky now and seemed content again, so they must be on the right track. Lily sighed, leaning into Harry again for a moment, before Sirius finally decided to read on. Do I want to know? Lily demanded. Harry said nothing, trying desperately to remember what this thing was, and knowing he wasn't going to like the answer. Someone killed that cat. Sirius yelped in shock. The poor thing, Lily said, then she went a little bug-eyed and yelped. A student killed a cat. Damn, James winced. We've never even hated Mrs. Norris that much. I think you missed the point of that, James, Remus said, looking as upset as Lily. It wasn't that Mrs. Norris is dead, which is awful, it's that a student killed her. What kid is that kind of horrible to kill an animal and leave it hanging up in the school? Assuming Lockhart didn't kill her, of course, which would be, she's not dead, Harry finally blurted. Then he clenched up and grabbed hold of his head again. He had been trying very, very hard not to blurt that out, because he knew the pain it would cause, but the fact that they kept saying it over and over, and he knew it was wrong, it had just come out. After a few minutes of panting and forcing his muscles to relax again, he finally looked up and around to begin. Stop that, James snorted, not looking very mad, just a little upset. We were wrong, and you knew it, so you corrected us. I'm sorry it hurt you to do it, but you shouldn't be sorry you did it. Harry nodded, then asked hesitantly and said, any ideas what can petrify a cat? Then he winced again, wondering what made him use that choice of words. A couple of spells, James shrugged, in which case someone's just playing a really cruel joke on the cat. Boy, I hope that's the case. I can only think of one thing that would actually petrify, though, Remus said, taking more note of Harry's choice of words. A gorgon. Remus suddenly looked very frustrated, but there's no way that could get around the castle without being seen. You said the same thing about a mountain troll, Sirius pointed out. Yes, but that was let in by a T. Remus cut himself off and shoved his face into his hands as he realized what he was about to say. Lockhart can't handle pixies, let alone a gorgon, Sirius said weakly, then automatically corrected himself. Of course, Quirrell the stuttering fool was actually skilled and fooled us as well. Fooled me, Harry corrected. You guys are only seeing what I did. It's not your fault I didn't notice some things full-grown wizards might have. None of the teachers seemed to do anything about it, Lily sniffed, except Severus, she privately added, though she suddenly realized his real motives had never been fully revealed in that book. Why hadn't Severus gone to Dumbledore if he was trying to stop Quirrell? Well, if it is Lockhart, We're certainly on to him before we were quarrel, James said bracingly. Let's keep going serious, and Harry can pipe up if he remembers anything else without causing his head to explode, he finished paternally. Harry smiled round at all of them, pleased beyond measure at their absolute faith that he wasn't going crazy and doing their very best to keep him comfortable. He's got a point, Lily agreed at once. I don't want anyone trying to blame you three for doing that. Why? Remus asked in confusion. No one's common room is on the second floor. They should have kept going right up the main staircase. Harry sighed at his misfortune as he said, like with the dancing skeletons thing, there was another rumor Dumbledore was supposed to do some kind of show in that particular corridor. Guess that one might have been true. I can't think of any other reason we got caught right then. That's exactly what I was hoping to avoid, Lily groaned. Why is it you three seem to hop upon everything? James grumbled. 'Cause otherwise, my school years would have been boring, Harry said just as unpleased as his father. Sirius winced this time, but recognized it would be ridiculous if he refused to say it when everyone knew he didn't mean it. Sirius gritted his teeth in distaste while Remus huffed and said, Can't imagine who would say a thing like that. I really wish I could punch out whoever taught him that word, James muttered. Lily just looked depressed all over again, unable to hear that word without another Slytherin shouting it at her in the middle of a crowded courtyard. I've got it. Remus suddenly yelped, Got what? Sirius laughed, passing Harry the book. I think it's Malfoy that's been doing this. Chapter 9. The Writing on the Wall. Chapter text, That's ridiculous, Remus, Lily said. Malfoy isn't nearly capable enough to be pulling off these kinds of stunts. What making creepy voices and stunning cats? He demanded back. James and Sirius exchanged a look before Sirius said, I can see that. Malfoy's a pureblood, so he's got means and motive to pull this. Plus he hates Harry, so that could be why he's singling him out. But how, though? James said uneasily, clearly siding with his wife on this. I'm still stuck on why Harry's the only one hearing this. I can't imagine why a second year would know how, and we can't. His dad's a Death Eater, Remus shrugged. I wouldn't be too surprised if he knew a few things we never will. Harry was looking torn, his 12-year-old mind really wanting to agree with Sirius and Remus, while something else was holding him back from saying this aloud. Not wanting to cause another stir of pain in him, none of them really wanted to ask Harry another question, in fear it would cause another memory blast he couldn't handle. So out of any more usable information, and without an input himself, Harry read. Or the fact that his cat disappeared for more than 10 minutes, Sirius muttered, this time without any real heat. Even he felt bad for Filch for what was about to happen. I really do feel bad for him, James said, knowing full well that cat was one of the only things Filch actually cared for. Pity gone, Remus said at once, having at first sided with his friends, but now knowing for a fact Filch was going to blame Harry for it. Harry didn't do anything wrong, Lily said at once, her sorrow for the cat still lingering, and there are a dozen ghosts that can prove it. No way should he be blamed for this. Not going to stop Filch, Sirius muttered. Really? James yelped, going red in the face. Did he really just threaten to kill you? Harry still looked rather upset and said, Yeah, but he didn't mean it. I don't know, Sirius said bitterly. The few times someone's actually tried to get at that cat, they tend to wind up in the worst kinds of detentions. If someone did do something like stun and string up his cat. Don't, Lily snapped at him, or at least wait until they catch whoever did do it. It's not going to do anything to Harry. Sirius shrugged in surrender. I thought Lockhart's office was on the second floor. James asked, Why did he move it upstairs? Why would you remember something like that? Lily asked in disbelief. I always know where all the teachers' offices are, James said, grinning like a child again, even if I'm not at the school. For some odd reason, someone released a bunch of Cornish pixies in his room, Harry said innocently. I've no idea who could have gotten the idea. Ron and I were sure it was just a coincidence we had mentioned our disastrous first lesson to Fred and George that day. The three boys looked at Harry like he had suddenly turned blue. Remus was the first to gasp, and you didn't mention this because... Harry shrugged, forcing an innocent look to cross his face as he said, Like I said, it was just a coincidence. Don't, Sirius said. Then he let out a bark like laughter, his eyes shining with mirth as he continued. Don't even try that one on us, Harry. Did you really do it? Or no, Harry interrupted, not bothering to hide his smile any more. I meant that. Fred and George really did do it. They were looking for an excuse to get at Lockhart themselves, and apparently those pixies destroyed his office. For some weird reason, no one had fixed it yet. Guess that moron couldn't fix it himself, Lily chuckled, and at this point he's annoyed the other teachers so much they woo. Harry, James yelped, finally coming out of his shock, then shocking his own son by grabbing him up in a hug. I can hardly believe how proud I am. It's certainly the best start into pranking I've ever heard. Harry was laughing like a pure child. Really, he hadn't mentioned this because he hadn't been directly involved in Fred and George's prank. He hadn't even realized he'd given them the idea. He and Ron had been talking about it in the courtyard, though, and when the twins had commented on it, he had thought they were just commiserating yet another bad teacher. Then the next day, they heard Lockhart had to change offices, only learning the details that night. He hadn't realized his dad and uncles, friends. He still wasn't sure what to make of them, would take this as an introduction to being a master prankster like they had. Even his mom didn't look mad. She, like the others, seemed to think Lockhart deserved whatever he got. Only after giving them the full details that he knew of would they let him continue. Just before, though, they did demand that he tell them any time even the smallest thing like this ever happened again. Probably the most useful thing he did that year, James snickered. Did you know, Remus said brightly, that paintings are imbued with the personalities and memories of who they were painted of? Oftentimes, they even reenact what the real person did in their free time. Harry chuckled, fully realizing what Remus was saying, and laughing all the more when Sirius pretended to be shocked while saying, "Oh, come now, Moony. I'm sure a man like Lockhart wouldn't put his hair in rollers." Then he dissolved into laughter without being able to continue. Harry waited patiently before continuing. "I don't get it," Lily asked, confused. "Why don't they just unfreeze her?" Harry was twitching because of his mother's question before saying out loud, "Something about what you said doesn't sound right. It's more complicated than that," or he trailed off, but Lily smiled and nodded at him, saying, "It's all right, dear. Guess we'll find out as you do." All four boys scowled at this, finding it rather annoying how whenever something bad seemed to be happening, Snape was smiling right along. Why was he even there? He had nothing to do with this. It was Lockhart's office, fine, and they were McGonagall's charges, but Snape had no reason to be there. There was absolutely no point in anyone grumbling about this, though. They wanted their answers too much to point out something they wouldn't get an answer to. "As useless as ever I see," Remus snorted. He seemed to find him more annoying than any of them, feeling personally offended that this joke of a wizard got a position he could never have. James wanted to blurt out what an idiot he was, but forced himself to remain silent when he reminded himself he had been thinking the same thing until Harry corrected him. "The more I hear about him, the more I wish he had gone on all of those stupid adventures," Sirius huffed. "Then he would have died from his own ineptitude." He was rather annoyed that he had been wondering the same thing before they found out Mrs. Norris wasn't dead. He clearly has an idea what he's talking about, but since he can't execute a first-year charm, that makes him talking all the more annoying. "There isn't a counter-curse for that," Lily huffed. "It's practically as bad as the 3 unforgivable curses. The only reason it didn't make it on the list, making 4, is because its effects aren't as bad." "What does it do exactly?" Harry asked. "Transfigures the body in painful ways," Sirius said, "like twisting an arm or a leg out of socket. I was wondering if aimed right, that's what happened to the cat. You know, twisted its tail out of place or even its neck. If it was dead long enough, the body would have gone rigger." Harry nodded along sadly, then asked, "What are the 3 unforgivable curses?" It was another of those awful moments where he definitely knew the answer to that. James answered, "Cruciatus, Imperius, and Avada Kedavra." Harry winced especially hard at that last one, though he didn't understand why. The 4 of them just put it up to his memory returning to him, since most 7th years are taught this towards the end of the year. "And why are they called that?" he asked, still annoyed he didn't know this himself. "Ah," Remus said weakly, "because they do really awful things to people. Cruciatus tortures people, sometimes to the brink of losing their minds. Imperius can control a mind, forcing them to do anything the controller wants. Avada Kedavra is the killing curse. There's no counter spell, nothing anyone can possibly do. Once you're hit with that, you're dead. If anyone is found guilty of using them, they get a sentence in Azkaban." Harry nodded, feeling a bit more relieved now that this particular memory was returned, though he had no idea what its significance was. "Oh," Lily cooed sadly. Now I really hope they hurry up and fix her. James couldn't help but smile at his wife. Lily had disliked that cat as much as everyone else at that school, but she was such a good person, she was willing to put aside a petty difference for the jerk of the owner. Something that had probably garnered him that first date so many years ago. True, Remus winced, but I am positive Dumbledore won't think that of you. Harry only looked slightly relieved at his words, enough to go on anyways. Okay, James drew the word out past its normal syllables, so it's definitely not a normal paralysis. Far beyond a second-year level anyways, he said smugly to his friends. Sirius and Remus gave each other loaded looks before nodding. Sirius said, I still think he did it, like I said, dark father, dark spells. I'm still agreeing, Remus nodded. That jerk seemed far too unsurprised about what he found. It probably took him ages just to think of his comment. Harry laughed at Remus, while Lily and James rolled their eyes at the two of them. Amulets, Lily rolled her eyes. He must be joking. No one is stupid enough to believe that. Why not? Harry asked curiously. Lily continued in much kinder tones. Anything can be charmed so that it's imbued with protection, but only against small, simple things. Something as awful as curses, there's no way anyone could produce a charmed amulet that strong. Let alone him, she finished in scathing tones again. Harry smiled at her again. All five of them chuckled at yet another visual catch from their boy. Did he have to take off his shoes and start counting on toes from those fake numbers? Remus laughed harshly. You're really taking him personally, aren't you? James laughed. Me? No, I would never, Remus said, not even pretending to hide his sarcasm. Petrified, all four of them said. They had noted Harry's use of the word earlier. Guess now they knew why he said it like that. However, they hadn't known he meant the term literally, like Dumbledore sure seemed to. Okay, Remus and Sirius said together, Sirius continuing, we admit Malfoy probably didn't do that then. Which leads back to only a Gorgon, Remus huffed. Honestly, though, I'm still unconvinced anyone could get that thing, or take Mrs. Norris out for that matter, petrify the cat, and no one noticed. Not even Dumbledore himself. Well, he seemed pretty daft about goings-on last year, Lily huffed. The four boys gave her upset looks, still not as convinced as her of Dumbledore's guilt from last year. Still, they continued on in hopes Dumbledore would say more. Says the moron prattling along about her death a moment ago, Remus muttered before Sirius could say something. Thank Dumbledore for listening, James huffed, getting angry at Filch all over again. If the headmaster listened to Filch every time he tried to get a student thrown out, there wouldn't be anyone left in the school after a month, Sirius laughed. Why would I care about that? Harry asked. In some circles, Sirius said, squibs are more of an offense than muggleborns. He put on a female-pitched voice as he continued, a wizard who can't produce another proper wizard doesn't deserve the bloodline. I have heard some pretty awful stories as a trainee, James agreed, about wizards who tried to hide away squibs, and he shuddered, saying, well, if I tell you later, you'd understand better why we were so upset about the Dursleys making a crack at squashing out your magic. Harry nodded along sadly, then decided to keep going before any more of the transgressions of the Dursleys could come up. Which would mean nothing to someone raised by muggles, Remus pointed out, wincing in pain at his own words, as Filch would very well know. All four boys grimaced, knowing anything Snape said couldn't be helpful to Harry. Glad to know we're on the same page, Sirius said with pride. James pretended to faint in shock, flopping against the armrest of the sofa. Harry was the only one laughing. Remus and Sirius were still too in shock to react, looking like they really might pass out, and Lily simply rolled her eyes at these boys. Oh, James said, perking back up again at once. All right then. Remus and Sirius finally broke out of their shock long enough to crack up at James' theatrics to even ask why Snape would notice such a thing. Did he really watch Harry at meals just to try and catch him doing something wrong? That should have been ridiculous, but considering all the times Snape seemed to have stalked them intent on finding the same thing, they didn't find it far-fetched either. The same reason as everyone else, apparently, Sirius snapped. Besides, how did he even know they weren't there? James huffed. Of all the Gryffindor students at that table, he spotted those three were missing. Agreed, you shouldn't go shouting about it in front of him, Remus snorted in disgust, but I do hope you tell Dumbledore or at least McGonagall afterwards. Harry sighed and said, Can I just say now, I don't think that happens. Well, Lily began, thanks for telling us of that feeling. Hope you won't mind too much if I hope that feeling's wrong. Not at all, Harry shrugged. He had still been a young student who was more afraid of being called crazy at the time, but now looking back, he admitted he should have said something. Here I didn't think Snape could get more annoying, James huffed. Does he have to question you? Guess that's not a bad lie on the spot, Sirius said miserably, knowing Snape wouldn't fall for it anyways. You're joking, right? James growled. That cat wasn't knocked out with a bludger. Is he really so upset about the game he's going to kick Harry off for something he didn't do? What a sad, desperate man, Sirius said without any pity. All four of them cracked up laughing, James going a little red in the face as he spluttered. I didn't. It's close enough, mate, Sirius chuckled. You just mimicked a teacher. Technically, I said it first, he pointed out, without any conviction. Professor Potter, it really does have a nice ring to it, Remus teased, causing James to scowl at him. Harry, keep reading, James said grumpily, before I knock their heads together and put some sense back in them. Ooh, we're so scared, Sirius cackled. I hate that look, James huffed, still annoyed at his friends. Punishment for what? Sirius demanded, finally distracted from smirking at James. Who is he supposed to be punishing? Lockhart. He's the only one there who's done anything wrong this year. He's just upset, Lily said sadly, and being a jerk as usual. Let him be, since we know Dumbledore won't really do anything rash. So that makes it right to yell at Harry, James demanded. No, Lily snapped. He's just yelling. It's not even directed at Harry really, just at the world for taking his cat away. And you know this how? Remus laughed at her. You telling us you were there. Lily just sighed and rolled her eyes. There seemed to be no way of getting through to these boys. Lily nodded. This made perfect sense to her. The Mandrake Restorative should do the trick. She could think of a few others, but without knowing exactly how Mrs. Norris was petrified, that particular potion was the best option. Harry, however, looked a combination of upset and disgusted as he asked, "What, they kill those ugly little plant babies?" Lily was quick to explain, "They're not sentient, sweetheart, not even on an animal level. Their body goes through the stages of human life, and then they recycle and start all over again. That's why they're so useful for these types of potions." Harry nodded in understanding and let the matter go, deciding that if his animal-loving mother didn't have a problem with this, if no one seemed to, he may just be overthinking it. Please, James yelped. For the love of Merlin, don't let anyone be so stupid to let him do that. Even Remus would do a better job than that yuck. Thanks, Remus snorted at the backwards compliment. More like you'd fall asleep trying, Sirius muttered. Lily smiled with pride. Now there was no way the boys could pick on Save any more this year, since he had just volunteered to help a cat he himself didn't like very much. She stored that away for future use, as right now all four of them were muttering in annoyance, but couldn't think of anything bad to say about that. Ouch, Sirius winced. And here I thought Ron had gotten better about compliments. Agree with the advice, though, James said sadly. Gee, thanks, Dad, Harry muttered with good nature. They should, Remus said at once. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. No one's denying that, Lily agreed sadly. The three boys nodded. It was an old spooky story passed down through bloodlines. You didn't even have to have siblings to hear about it. Even a parent would mention it from time to time. Lily huffed in annoyance, saying, "Why's that funny?" Let him explain, James said, rolling his eyes. I've a good idea why he's sniggering like that. See, Sirius said proudly. He had been a little ruder than that when he'd first found out. Lily still didn't seem to find it funny, but she didn't seem mad at Ron any more either, so Harry kept going. Like he's ever needed an excuse, James muttered. Doubt that, Remus chuckled. Now that's odd, Lily said in surprise. Why couldn't it come off? Did any of the teachers try? The message was left up there all year, Harry began with confidence. Then he trailed off in agitation as he muttered, but his mom, cut him off and said, All right then, guess we'll just wait and see. Harry nodded, both annoyed at his inability to answer even the simplest questions, and warned the people around him were trying their hardest not to push him for information. Wow, James said in surprise. Here I thought he couldn't get worse. Did he get away with it? Remus asked. No, Harry shrugged. A teacher would always step in and stop him. Even Snape wouldn't allow it, 'cause I never saw Slytherins getting punished for that either. The poor first years, Lily agreed. That's got to be really creepy to them. It's really creepy to me, Sirius said, and I'm a graduate. While James and Sirius chuckled weakly at this, Remus said, "Okay, that's it. Ron's not allowed to try and comfort people anymore." Harry started laughing with them, while Lily just smiled fondly at her boys. At least Ron was trying. Harry wasn't able to read this fully without breaking out in a few more spurts of laughter. He did this mostly, though, to hide just how uncomfortable this was making him. Clearly, he was just upset on Ginny's part. What else could it be? The boys appreciated Ron's attempt at humor that time, while Lily dearly wanted to point out there was a time and place. That clearly wasn't helping Ginny. "Any ideas?" Sirius asked. "It might have something to do with looking up being paralyzed," Remus offered. "That's something she might not have come across yet, which would annoy the little brainiac." "You're starting to sound like Ron," James said, eyes gleaming with humor as he stared at his friend. "That was the most backwards compliment I've heard yet." "What?" He shrugged. "Brainiac isn't an insult. It's a compliment." "Then I'd like to hear you say it to her face one of these days," Sirius cackled, causing Remus to go red in the face. Harry was grinning at these three boys, simply enjoying watching them interact how they probably had during their own school days. "For what reason?" James snapped, good mood almost snipped away just by the mention of his name. His excuse was, "So you can learn another way tube worms aren't used." He snorted in annoyance at him. "Apparently my potion was destroyed because of the way I did it." "Jerk," Sirius huffed. Lily was dearly tempted to argue back, but she floundered for an actual reason Severus would have done this other than to just be a jerk. Harry was already reading on. "Well, that was rude," Remus said. "I was going to say odd," James disagreed. "What, did you still smell like tube worms?" Sirius asked innocently. "I don't think so," Harry muttered, wondering why he suddenly had a feeling of trepidation at Justin's name, let alone that reaction to him. "Poor kid," Sirius said in sympathy. "That's why I always made my writing as large as possible," James agreed. All five of them snickered a bit at this. Unsurprising, though, it was more than obvious Hermione was an overachiever. "Well, she's got a good start because of last year," Harry laughed. "We went through dozens of books looking for flame." "Can't argue with Ron there," James agreed. "Well, Justin hadn't been to any of his classes at that point," Lily pointed out. "I'm sure by now the whole of the students know better." "Like Hermione," Remus disagreed. Lily pursed her lips but kept silent at that. "Doesn't she own a copy?" Sirius asked in surprise, remembering her random mentions of the book last year. "Wait for it," Harry said, before continuing. "Yet another reason to hate that idiot." Sirius rolled his eyes. "Well, there's our proof that Hermione doesn't actually have a photographic memory," James snickered. "I thought she had memorized that book." "Does Hogwarts, a history, even mention the Chamber of Secrets?" Remus asked. "It only says that there are secrets that the founders created," Lily said, "some that may never be discovered. It was such a vague thing, I never put much stock into it." "Well then, once the populace realizes Hogwarts, a history has no mention of it, Hermione should get her turn pretty quickly," James said. "Don't need to hear that argument," Remus sighed in remembrance. "I've lived it." James and Sirius didn't even look abashed. "Did you guys start that rumor too?" Lily asked. "Nah," James chuckled. "That was started long before we got there." "Wonder if he'll even notice." Sirius laughed. "He doesn't even look up." "So even Hermione's never interrupted to ask a question?" Remus asked. "Nope," Harry shrugged. "Then why did she this time?" Lily asked. Harry gave her an odd look, and she blushed when she realized Harry didn't know any better than she did. "I'm impressed you even know what he's talking about," James gasped. "Probably the only teacher ever who didn't know her name," Lily giggled. All five of them looked startled. No one had ever interrupted Binns, let alone with a question like that. Eager to hear what this teacher had to say, even in his vacuum voice, Harry read. Lily huffed and said, "Well, that's ridiculous. All facts have a start as myth or legend. Just because someone didn't write it down doesn't make it not true." "No wonder Binns is so boring," Remus rolled his eyes. "He's got a boring mindset." "She just said her name." James rolled his eyes. Lily beamed with pride as she said, "Now there's someone I don't mind mimicking." "It is still better than Professor Potter," Sirius agreed, while James threw him a nasty look all over again. "Nope," James agreed, "as far as we know anyways." "That's sad," Remus sighed. "I'm sure if the students showed more interest, this could be a good class. But for that to happen, the teacher would have to actually be interesting." Sirius huffed in disgust. He'd heard this story before. His mother had given it to him the night before he went to Hogwarts to showcase how legendary Salazar Slytherin had been. Lily noticed and reproached him by pointing out, "To be fair, you have to see the timeline they were in. This was back when we were so feared and persecuted, we cut ourselves off from Muggles for good." He was afraid for the young students. "You do realize you just argued that students like you shouldn't have come," Remus pointed out. Lily rolled her eyes at him and said, "I didn't say it was right. I'm just saying it won't kill him to see it from another perspective." Actually, Lily butted in, all four of them supposedly did something special to the school. Slytherin's was just a bit more wrong. "Yeah," James agreed with a straight face. "That's putting it nicely." "Got any ideas what the other three are?" Remus asked, lips twitching, which was a clear indication he already knew the answer. "Let's see if Harry comes across them on his own, like he did this one," Lily said quickly, tactfully avoiding the question without giving away her answer. "Well, that doesn't sound very good," Lily said with surprise, never hearing that part of the story, not really thinking much when one of the boys mentioned the monster earlier. "Really?" Sirius laughed. "They're still hanging on your every word, and the only reactions we've heard about is how annoyed he feels about it." "Not a good method of teaching," Remus agreed. "I don't know," James said, raising a brow. "Just cause no one can find it doesn't make it not true." Remus' brows shot into his hairline, and he began to wonder on something. Harry had to stop for a moment just so he didn't burst out snapping that was a lie. He huffed in annoyance to himself. Clearly he knew something this teacher didn't, but he had no idea why. He didn't want to upset his family either, though, so he waited until he found out more through the year. "That's what we finally decided," James agreed sadly, "which is why we had to eventually give up the search." "That wasn't even close," Sirius chuckled. "I swear, is he getting their names wrong on purpose now?" Lily rolled her eyes. "Since this is most likely the first time he's ever actually addressed a class, I'm impressed he's even trying," James chuckled. "Snappy," Remus said in surprise. "Now I regret never having tried anything like this in his class. And here I thought you were the good one." Lily rolled her eyes. "Nah," Sirius laughed. "He was just the quiet one. Made him seem less likely to pull something, which gave us quite the advantage. That was probably the most interesting history of magic class ever." James laughed. Lily sighed in disappointment. There were times she had dearly wished she had been sorted into Slytherin. She hated it when someone else put the house down like that. She was also refraining from pointing out that Slytherin himself would have been thinking something like this back when Muggles couldn't be trusted not to burn a wizard at the stake, so his suspicions weren't even considered that wrong at the time. It was a testament to how they had aged that none of the boys in the room commented on this, whether in agreement or not. "Not as seriously as I could have," Sirius said loudly, hating to see how upset Harry was clearly starting to look at the reminder. Harry gave him a brief smile. He clearly still found the joke funny even if everyone else in the room groaned. "I doubt they'd care," Sirius tried again, and chuckled, "since all of my friends on the train fully expected me to be in Slytherin before I even made it to the hat." "You were a less likable jerk until you were in my house," James teased. "I got sorted before you," Sirius reminded. "How did you know you weren't going to be in Slytherin?" "'Cause I know these things," James said, puffing out his chest. Lily rolled her eyes indulgently at them. "You know, I think Merlin was in Slytherin," Remus chuckled. "So even though, Harry, I know you don't need any more convincing. Your mom does that well enough, there you go. Best wizard who ever existed, Slytherin House." Lily beamed at him, while James and Sirius rolled their eyes, James saying, "Honestly, Moony, how many times are you going to spout out facts like that?" "I like them," Harry smiled. "That's definitely something I've never heard before." "Well, that settles it," Sirius grinned. "Fact away, Remus." Remus just rolled his eyes at the pair of them. "You're what?" Lily asked in confusion. "The heir of Slytherin, probably," Harry said miserably as he thought back to the way Justin had reacted. James snorted in disbelief, saying, "Oh, please. You're as much related to him as Ron is. All purebloods are distantly related, which means that anyone in that castle who has a drop of the old blood could be suspect." "Yeah," Harry muttered, his good mood from before gone in a flash at Colin's reminder. "But none of them are the famous Harry Potter, so the school won't even think about that." "Well, that's why you ignore the school and focus on your friends," Sirius said in a forced bright voice, having quite a bit of practice at this himself. All five of them nodded, in full agreement with Hermione's logic. Lily sighed miserably. It didn't seem too dangerous, since Filch had been hanging around there and nothing had happened to him yet. But why on earth did you feel the need to poke around? Come off it, James snorted. For the same reason they were determined to find Flamel last year. They're curious. Can't knock that until it gets dangerous. Harry smiled at his dad while his mom rolled her eyes again. What's the significance of scorch marks? Sirius asked. That could have been caused by any student at any time before or after the attack. Do you know how many times a day someone set something on fire in that castle? I'm sure you know, Lily chuckled. It was just something to do with the scene, Harry shrugged. Remus went cross-eyed at yet another clue. He crossed a few more things off his list of what he thought this monster might be. Wow, Ron doesn't like spiders, James said in surprise. Must make potions for him really difficult, Lily said. Oh, Lily said, shrugging. Well then, here's hoping Ron never goes too deep into the forest, Sirius said, or he'll be in for a nasty surprise. Harry blanched slightly. That felt ominous to him. The others noticed and didn't like that reaction one bit. However, when Harry didn't offer up the information, no one decided to pressure him about it. Oh, Remus said sadly, that's not something that's funny. Lily shrugged. She'd had the urge to giggle herself, but she'd held it back. Ouch, James winced. Yeah, that would give anyone arachnophobia. Poor kid, Sirius said again in sympathy. I once set Regulus' stuffed dragon on fire. Appreciated the irony when I grew up anyways. Once when I was little, Lily said darkly, Petunia got a new dress for her birthday. I was jealous because I wanted one too, but my mom told me I had to wait for my own birthday. The dress changed to this ugly color, and it smelled something awful which never came out. Of course, I don't regret that anymore. She trailed off miserably, suddenly wondering if her sister's hatred of magic wasn't so unfounded, with a few more of these instances coming to mind. Sibling love, Remus said weakly before waving Harry on. Oh wow, that explains it, Lily said in surprise. What? The boys all asked. That's Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Huh, Harry muttered, wondering why this felt significant to him. The others boys just laughed, Sirius saying, well, guess she still enjoys flooding her bathroom then. You mean you went in? Remus asked in surprise. Geez, even we never bothered to go in a girl's bathroom, James chuckled. Then how did you know about Myrtle? Lily asked. I thought she never left her toilet. She was at Nick's death day party, Remus pointed out. That was a special occasion, Lily disagreed. Before they could keep arguing like this, Sirius answered her question. Myrtle hangs around in a lot of the bathrooms. Found her snooping on a guy's bathroom once and we got to talking. Lily and Harry both went bug-eyed at this realization, Harry sputtering, which one? While Lily said, she did what? Oh yeah, James nodded. She did it all the time, apparently. That's disgusting, Lily balked. Harry dearly looked like he regretted ever using the bathroom at school ever, then wondered why he wasn't more shocked by this bit of information. Had he ever run into Myrtle in another bathroom? Shrugging, he decided to keep reading, knowing it was no good complaining about a ghost's creepy habits. Creepy, James muttered. Geez, no one keeps that place kept up, Sirius laughed. Well, since no one ever goes in there, I guess no one bothers, Lily shrugged. Plus, seeing as Myrtle did die in that bathroom, I imagine not many people want to go in there. It's the principle, Remus shrugged. Harry looked at Remus oddly, wondering why on earth that felt important to him. How did you know she died in there? Lily asked skeptically. She told us she died in the bathroom she stays in, Sirius shrugged. So what? Lily found that slightly disturbing, but Harry was beginning to feel sick again. Something about what they were saying felt really important to him, and his mind was already starting to swell with information it wanted to give him. So he instead decided to keep reading, rather than let that happen. Sirius gave a slow, sarcastic clap at this brilliant deduction until Remus smacked him to get him to stop. Good show, Lily snickered. Not a good idea, Remus said at once. If you don't say anything to her out loud, she'll get all paranoid on you. Smiling slightly, Harry read. James opened his mouth like he was going to make a sarcastic comment about that, but Lily reached behind Harry and smacked him before he could. Well, he wasn't wrong, James said quickly, cringing when Lily looked like she was going to smack him again. The girl was dead, no need for these boys to be poking fun at her, even if Myrtle thought they were doing it anyways. Dang, who would yell at Ron like that? Sirius asked, having jumped slightly at Harry's yelling. Ah, Remus acknowledged. Of course it would be his older brother who would yell at him like that. Probably where he got it from, James agreed. He's got a point, Lily grimaced, not having thought of that. He's just being paranoid, Remus disagreed. I'm sure loads of students have done the same thing. It was just their misfortune to get caught. That's not fair, Lily said hotly. I'm sure he cares about his baby sister as much as Ron does. Ron's just angry, James pacified, lashing out and all. I'm sure Ron doesn't really mean it. Worst thing you could threaten a sibling with, Sirius laughed. Must be a Weasley thing, Remus chuckled. She'd probably been thinking about it while doing her charms work, Lily said. You're saying she doesn't even need to concentrate on the homework and she's still top in her class? James asked. Lily shrugged, knowing firsthand she could both do charms work and think of something else. Don't blame him at all, Remus shrugged. That's what she's skeptical about. Sirius laughed. No, James sighed. Otherwise this would be a more frequent thing, yet there's never been a petrified cat before. What is she planning? Lily asked in disbelief. Something that sounds like a load of fun, Sirius grinned. The three boys looked puzzled for a moment before James said, I give the idea merits, but not that scenario in particular. A small dose of truth serum, or he's just dumb enough you might could trick the information you think you need out of him. I still don't get how she plans on doing what she said, Lily said in surprise. A few ideas came to her own mind, but they were seventh-year levels. After all, they didn't teach wizards how to disguise their appearances lightly. Harry brightened as he finally remembered what had been bothering him this whole conversation, then blinked in shock when his mom burst out laughing. Why's that funny? Sirius asked. She's not wrong. No, Lily chuckled, but it is ridiculous. That's a sixth-year potion. She's a second year. Hermione's advanced, I'll not deny that, but to be able to pull something like that off. No, I'm sorry, it's just funny. And she trailed off weakly at the look on Harry's face. The other boys gave Harry looks of disbelief as well as Remus asked, It is ridiculous, right? He muttered, thinking for a few moments before shrugging and saying, I wouldn't put it past her. Lily still didn't look convinced, while the other boys were privately thinking that if Hermione could pull this off, she shouldn't even be in school. She could probably pass an exam and get herself out already. Harry finally asked, Well, what does it do? It's a potion that can change your physical appearance to match someone else's exactly for an hour, Lily promptly explained. Harry nodded. Now knowing this must have been exactly what they did, since this information didn't feel new to him at all. Sirius and James cracked grins at each other. That was a very memorable sentence to their feelings about potions as well. Anything is stretching it, Remus said. I doubt, even if he was the one doing this, he'd be boasting about it. Then another student could go and report him. I doubt the reporting part, Sirius disagreed. Without proof, no student would go and rat out another student like that. Hermione disagrees with you, Remus, James said cheerfully. So now Sirius and I need to have a debate about which of you we think is smarter. Remus looked like he was fixing to make a very sarcastic comment back, but Harry interrupted. While I'd like to hear that, can I finish this chapter? It's only got a bit left. Lily snickered as Harry easily broke up a squabble between these three with ease. They all backed down at once so he could keep going. Why would he tell them the book it was in? James asked, if they're only second years, why was he mentioning it at all? Don't know, Harry shrugged. We weren't paying attention, remember, and I never asked. Just tell McGonagall you want to look into some advanced work, James said, smiling back at an old memory. Then copy the book. Worked for us all the time. Lily dearly wanted to ask when and why they needed a book out of the restricted section, but she was honestly afraid of the answer. This being a potions book, I don't see that working as well as a transfiguration book, Remus disagreed with both Hermione and his friend. Well, doesn't hurt to try, James shrugged, then laughed and said, It's better than Harry's idea of sneaking in anyways. Don't want any more screaming books now. Agreed, Harry muttered, rubbing his ears in remembered pain. Chapter's over, Harry said, passing the book to Remus.